Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Barnstable Town Councilor Jen Cullum, and we're talking about a new event coming up this year, an inaugural event to talk about drugs and different issues. It's a 7th grade youth summit. Jen, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this special youth summit, which is taking place at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center on March 19th and 20th, which is Thursday and Friday. Tell me about this event.
Well, so the genesis of this event really came from the Human Services Committee initially, where the Human Services Committee made a recommendation to the town council that the town somehow be involved in a forum on prevention. Historically, 99% of every dollar is spent on treatment or enforcement when it comes to this problem, and very little is spent on any sort of prevention. And so the Human Services Committee came with this idea. At the same time, I'm also liaison to that committee. I was liaison to the Youth Commission, and the kids needed a project, latched right onto it, and have pushed it to the point of becoming a summit that is kind of taking on a life of its own at this point.
Now, who is invited to come to this summit?
Okay, so here the event spans 2 days. So it's March 19th from 5:30 to 8 p.m., and that's for all community members. You don't have to be a Barnstable town resident. We encourage any parent, any citizen that wants to get involved in helping the prevention initiative to come. And at that event, we will have the majority of our legislative delegation there. We have state representatives coming. Senator Dan Wolf has said he would come. We have Cheryl Bartlett coming. We also have some programming going on that night. So Brenda Conlon, who's a prevention specialist who lives locally, will be coming to do a talk with parents about how to talk to their children regarding the issue of drugs, how to open up the conversation. And if you've not heard her speak, she's very funny and very down to earth, and I find she opens a lot of doors. So that's on Thursday night. In addition to that, on Thursday, I should say, the Barnstable school system will be there showing clubs and other things that maybe parents and kids didn't see in their initial tour of the high school. It's important to note that this event is really targeting 7th grade going into 8th grade. So it's really from like a classroom culture to an adult culture in the high school, where there's a lot more responsibility and there's a lot different problems and social formula that are being figured out. So the kids really wanted to focus on that particular issue. So that's Thursday night. 5:30 to 8, and that's at the HYCC on Bassett Lane. And then on Friday, the event is solely dedicated to the students. So the entire 7th grade will be bussed over in kind of 2 different busings, and then we will have programming there for them. And there'll be other, I should mention that on Thursday night, Sam Tarplin, who is the producer of a movie called What Happened Here, that the county has kind of picked up with and done some showings of, will be there with his film. There'll be a lot of different community support. I'm hopeful that Councilor Churches will have something there that we'll be able to count on some other community members to come forth and talk about how at least they're committed to the initiative of prevention, because I just wonder how much it will save if we get them early versus after they've already done something. So then Friday, again, is kids only, pretty much. There'll be some elected officials there. I will be there for a part of the day at least. The kids get to kind of look around and see what's out there for them at Barnstable High. So, maybe there's a music club that they want to be a part of. Understanding Diversity will be there, which is a great club from the high school that's ACLU trained that will teach peer mentoring. The YMCA will be there for the kids too. And the concept there is pretty much to identify your lifeline. So if you feel threatened or unsure of yourself or, scared or intimidated, who do you go to for a no judgment line? And we're just really hoping to create kind of a forum of familiarity and safety.
Now, Jen, you serve as a liaison, as you said, from the Town Council to the Youth Commission. Tell me about the Youth Commission. What is it? Who's on it? How do students participate in that?
Right. So the Youth Commission is under the umbrella of the Town Council boards and committees. So unlike Student Council, which answers to the school committee, the Youth Commission answers to the Town Council. So it's a really interesting committee to be on as a kid, I think, because you can actually affect policy and change. That's our job as town councilors. So these kids are, and I can name them, there's Sam Spillane, he's the chair, and Brendan Clark is the vice chair. We have Liana Mitchell, Emma Mantle, Matt Hersey, and Harry McDonald. From Sturgis, we have Georgina Duffy-Hetzel. So we have Barnstable High and Sturgis right now that are represented on the council, and we prefer to have more schools if possible. So if anybody from Pope John Paul or Cape Cod Academy were interested, it would be fantastic to have their point of view as well. So their job really is to identify problems that they see as pertinent and that they could affect change with in their peer group. And so this is a real big one, and we're hoping it'll become an annual event. And we certainly have, I think, the wheels behind us now to make that happen.
Now, I would think it would be fascinating serving as a liaison onto the Youth Commission, and in the course of planning for this event or talking about other events, have any surprising things come out of the Youth Commission where you've been on hand to hear about it?
Yeah, they're amazing. I mean, I just have to say that on all the boards and committees that I serve on, and they're numerous, and I deal a lot with the absence of prevention in our culture, and the emphasis. And it's upsetting to me that the emphasis is on, treatment and enforcement more than it is on prevention, because I really believe that the biggest bang for our buck is in prevention. But at every table that I'm sitting at, there are never, ever youthful faces, ever. It's always talking heads, my age. And, quite frankly, to be relevant to a teenager, you have to be a teenager. You have to see the world through their eyes. So that's really what I get out of the commission. I'm really, really thankful to have their purview, because they really know what's going on, And we have athletes, we have band members, we have all sorts of walks of life on the commission, and they're really brave kids, and they're really trying hard. And this is on top of everything else that they do every day in their schoolwork. This is on top of, their MCAS or their, whatever projects they have, and high school's tough. So, and I'm tough, and they come every other week and deliver, and I'm really, really impressed. And so I'm hoping, we've made some inroads now with Cheryl Bartlett, who is with Cape Cod Healthcare Prevention Initiative, and she's shown a lot of interest in having youthful faces at the table, which is very encouraging to me. And so I'm hoping that some of these kids can probably affect some policy level changes.
Now, in terms of the 7th grade youth summit, and you talked about how it started with the Human Services Committee, but that the Youth Commission has gotten involved. How has the Youth Commission affected this event?
Event has been entirely planned by the Youth Commission. The original thought was the Human Services Committee, but the Youth Commission then took it and ran with it. And so what they've done is 100% of it, really. They've planned the programming. When we asked them what they wanted to do, they said anything, but it can't be lectures. It can't be boring. It has to be interactive. So we have several other things that are happening there that I need to mention. On Friday, we have Improbable Players, which is a drama troupe coming down from Boston, and they've done some other stuff in local schools like on Martha's Vineyard to teach role-playing and, just communication and overall fostering that self-esteem issue that we'd like to address for 7th graders going into 8th grade. So it's a very interactive summit where we're hoping kids will realize that we're serious about it, that we know that they might speak a different language than we do, but together we can work on it, that they can identify a lifeline, that they can see other resources that might be available to them within their school and within their community, like the Y, to help them make good decisions from a good place in their own head. So
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm talking to Barnstable Town Councilor Jen Cullum of Hyannis, and we're talking about the upcoming 7th grade Youth Summit. Now, this forum is really focused on prevention, as you talked about, and we all know that there's a lot of talk about a drug epidemic in our community, just as in other communities across the Commonwealth and the country. Now, how important is it that teenagers talk among themselves about this problem?
I think it's absolutely vital. And one thing we're hoping for is that, especially with this group, Understanding Diversity, that's led by Martha Swindler at Barnstable High School, we're really hoping that we'll get a lot of peer referral and peer support for kids, because the threat is so great. And, once you just can't help but be apocalyptic about it. Once the drug is in your system, it could change everything forever. I mean, if you've seen any of the documentaries out there, I recommend everybody see what happened here. It's a sobering, pardon the pun, view on what can happen if you slip through the cracks. And we can't afford to let kids slip through the cracks. It just can't happen anymore. And we can't afford to fund it as a society, in my opinion, and we can't afford to lose the lives and the potential. So I think that it's absolutely vital that kids are at the table speaking their language, telling us what programs will work, because it doesn't really work if we roll it from the top down.
Now, this forum is focused on 7th graders, as you talked about, and I remember it was a few years ago when the Barnstable Schools Committee decided to have 8th graders at the high school, and they're in a separate part of the school, but it's still, I'm sure, a big adjustment for students that age. Is that part of the focus of this?
Exactly. That's what the Youth Commission decided they wanted to do. We said, let's choose a topic and let's choose an audience. And they said 7th grade going into 8th grade is crucial. It's a big leap. It changes cultures entirely from a middle school mentality to an adult mentality. You're confronted with adults every day that kind of look like kids but are doing a lot different things. And so that was really that's the voice of the Youth Commission right there, deciding that they wanted to take it in that direction, and they thought it would have the biggest positive effect.
Now, I was interested when I saw that this forum is also meant as an introduction for the public and parents on how to talk to teenagers about drugs. How will that part of it work?
Well, I mean, everybody's seen the uncomfortable or been involved in the uncomfortable kind of dinner conversation where you gloss over your kid's day. But I think, we get so busy with our individual lives, and parents have a hard time maybe reaching out and taking the iPad away from their kid when they're 16 years old and saying, I need to talk to you about you and your friends and the choices you're making in your life. And I think it really, after living in patterns for a certain amount of time, it's always a nice reminder to have somebody come in with a little bit of comic relief and say, look, everything's at stake. So you can either stay in your own little world, or you can reach out to your kid. And, when you think about it, it can happen in any way, shape, or form. It can happen with an injury. It can happen with peer pressure. It can happen in any way that your kid gets hooked on oxy. And then after they're on oxys, they can't afford it, so they're on heroin. And then after that, it's over. The potential's lost. So I think everything's at stake. And I really hope that that we'll have a good turnout for this, because it's really the first of its kind where we're focusing entirely on prevention and not dumping all of our energy into treatment. I think that, I know treatment needs to exist. I understand that, but I really believe that, a third of every dollar should be spent on keeping our kids safe and helping them make great choices, or safe choices for themselves.
And although this is taking place in Barnstable, as you said, it's not just for people from Barnstable, and it's not just for Barnstable public school students. Is that right?
Right. I mean, anybody can come. We'd love anyone to come. I think I heard that Cheryl Bartlett had invited some people from Mashpee, and I'd love for them to come. Other student councils or, youth government classes, I'd love for them to come. Now is the time to make the changes. And we've had a lot of support on this. And the more we talk about it with people, the more wheels we get and the more momentum we get. And so it's very exciting to have the former director of public health come down and say, I want to be a part of that. Yep, I definitely want to be a part of that. Well, that gives us some legitimacy, I think.
And at the forum, there will also be groups who are involved in this issue of the drug problem who will come to this session.
Primarily what we want to do is show parents and children the resources that are available to them within their community and their school. And so we want to provide a view of Barnstable High School that isn't seen on the walkthrough tour. If your kid is A, B, or C, they may not fit in D, E, and F, but they will fit in A, B, and C. And we have that, and we can offer that. And I think that that's an important thing for parents to know, that, there's a place for your kid there, and that the town, even if you go through the Youth Commission to me directly, the town is interested in addressing the issue. And that was one of the reasons I ran for town council in the very beginning, is because I lived on C Street, I still do, and I saw no one addressing the issue from the town, except the police. And it shouldn't just be on the back end. If we're serious about our efforts, we need to get on the front end. And that's why I love being involved with this, because the kids are doing it for themselves. The town is now involved. It's like I think everyone's got a finger in the pie at this point, and I think we're starting to realize how very important and vital this initiative is.
And as you said, the conference is really in two parts. Thursday is perhaps more for parents and other adults, although kids can come too. And then Friday is really for the students. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. And there'll be ads in the paper about it all with the Youth Commission logo and I think Cape Cod Healthcare's logo on that. And, we've had a lot of support from First Student providing the busing and other things. It's not cheap to pull it off, but, it's never been a matter of financial cost. It's been a matter of social cost. And I think it's pretty amazing that, people donate everything they can when they realize that it's a winning plan,
And as you said, Thursdays is an evening session, and then is Friday during the day?
Fridays during the day. It's just for kids. It's from 9 to 2. So they come over in kind of two different bus loads before lunch and after lunch. And I have to say that, Barnstable School Systems has been very understanding and supportive of the whole thing, and moved lunch around and provided permission slips and done a whole bunch of stuff because they also feel that it's vital and important. And so I just have to say that I'm so proud of these kids on the Youth Commission, especially in particular Brendan Clark, Liana Mitchell, Matt Hersey. They come to every meeting. They're affecting change, and I'm very, very proud of them. At that age, I was not doing that. I'll tell you that right now. And Mike Hersey, Matt's father, is the liaison, the parental liaison, and Patty Machado has been a dream from the town, helping us hammer it all out as staff support.
So we just have about 30 more seconds to just, I think, give an overview of when and where and what time.
Okay. So this is March 19th, which is a Thursday evening from 5:30 to 8 at the HYCC. And that's for parents and for community members. And that will be a talk and a movie and some other things just to inform you of what's going on in our community. Friday is a student-only event, 7th graders going into 8th grade, and there'll be a lot more resources there for them and planning and role modeling and peer modeling and all sorts of stuff, mentoring going on that day.
And unfortunately, we're out of time. I've been talking to Barnstable Town Councilor Jen Cullum of Hyannis about the upcoming 7th grade Youth Summit on March 19th and 20th at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. Jen, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.